Yeah, so I like to think everything we work on is significant, but sometimes it's not. So we have been working to kind of redesign the way senior living is done, basically in the country.
Welcome to Sengii Talks, the show that brings great ideas and the people that have them together. Joining me now is Eric Dowdy, Chief Government Affairs Officer for LeadingAge California. Eric, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So let's kind of start with just like a broad perspective. What is LeadingAge California?
So we are a statewide trade association that represents the continuum of care of services for seniors. So a lot of our members are facility-based organizations, nursing homes, assisted living providers, affordable senior housing, and then community-based services. So we kind of cover the gamut on services to older adults.
Now, I was looking on your website and I saw this this one section, like the branding I thought was just really frankly, it's just really cool, the concept. And it said, age on, rage on. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Age on Rage On is it's a public relations campaign really aimed at empowering seniors to kind of take control of their own destiny, really. Looking at, public policy issues, things that are happening both statewide and nationally, and ways that we can engage them in the legislative process to take action, around things around long-term services and supports financing. We've found that there's not a really good safety net for seniors who are middle income. So the campaign's really about kind of finding solutions for that middle income group and kind of activating them to get involved in the process to make that change happen for themselves.
Wow. So you've obviously been part of the organization for a very long time. Your current role is Chief Government Affairs Officer. So what does that look like? What is a day in the life, of your job? What does it look like?
Well, there's pre-COVID and post-COVID. I'll tell you, before all the pandemic hit, we're based in Sacramento, so it's the state capital of California, and we spend a lot of time talking to legislators, regulators, trying to advance our perspectives on the way basically the way our facilities should be operated and run. And then also the way we're serving seniors in general. There's a lot of cross-cutting policy initiatives that are being discussed right now, particularly in California. We've got a thing called the Master Plan for Aging that is really going to be the roadmap of how we serve the older population for the next 20 years. So we've been really involved in that. So it's a lot of stakeholder discussion, a lot of engagement with policymakers, and just troubleshooting for our members too, if they come up with problems or issues related to anything government related, whether it's a reimbursement question, it's how do we access financing for building affordable senior housing. We kind of run the gamut on that kind of thing.
Wow. That sounds like it's really a lot of different moving parts in terms of what your organization does. So looking at let's go at a macro perspective. What do you think the long-term impact will be in terms of the senior care industry, because of how people have had to adjust with the pandemic?
Yeah, so we're talking a lot about that. In fact, our board is meeting on that in a few weeks, and then there's going to be a lasting mark, and that's for sure. A lot of the things that we used to do in person, we're not going to be able to. We're talking about meetings, whether we go forward virtually, having the discussions that we used to have in person. We have a lot of committees that meet quarterly. We've got our board that meets in person. We're doing that all on online platforms. So whether we're using a video conferencing tool or Sengii or something along those lines, the technology has become much more important into future planning. So from the association's perspective, we're going to be using a lot of online tools, and then our members, they're nursing homes, they're retirement communities. They're not used to having to do all this technology. They're even incorporating a lot of that into their businesses because they have to be able to have their residents interact with each other. That's one of the reasons why you choose a retirement community, because you're among your peers. So we've seen them pick up a lot of technology tools just to interact, within a single campus. Hopefully that's going to change and they're going to be able to interact more with each other. But it was interesting to see how everyone just kind of immediately picked up the online technology and started working with it. So
that's excellent too. So so in terms of going staying with the same vein of the pandemic, are there any important things that you wish people knew or understood in terms of with the seniors in dealing with the pandemic?
Yeah, I think, I would just caution people on it's a horrible disease. It's really virulent, and it's, people do recover. So it's not, we have residents in their 90s, 100s that have recovered from the virus. So it's not by any means a death sentence. But I think, what you hear in the media, it might be a little overblown, but it's, something you definitely need to take seriously. But, it is a recoverable disease, and it is something that, everything that the CDC is putting out as far as wearing face coverings, and you're really protecting the seniors among us the most, since that's really been hitting seniors most hard during the pandemic. So wearing a face mask, it protects you, but it also protects, your 80, 90-year-old grandmother. So please do it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things, because especially when we first heard about the disease and we were kind of all just kind of discombobulated about what to happen. Some people, you're looking at different states, people were just out partying or saying, "Hey, I don't need to wear a mask because it doesn't affect young people." At first, that's what they were saying. We're realizing, hey, it's not about you. It's about taking care of the other people, the elderly population or the young kids who might have a weaker immune system, who can't fight it off as well. So I definitely agree with what you're saying in that capacity. So let's go back a little further, and let's talk more about you as well. So you've been with the organization for over 20 years. So are there any particular projects that you've been involved in that you would consider just really significant, maybe even just on a personal level?
Yeah, so I like to think everything we work on is significant, but sometimes it's not. So we have been working to kind of redesign the way senior living is done, basically, in the country. Some of that has been around kind of focusing on community-based alternatives. Nursing homes are a vital part of the system, but I think there's a big appetite for people to live in the community. So a lot of the work we've done, there's things we call continuing care at home, where you have services basically in the home for as long as you need it, and then you can move into a community if you'd like. And then we're also working on something new. It's actually the state initiated this, and we see a really good prognosis for it. It's basically called long-term care at home. So it's bringing a lot of the services that you'd find in a nursing home that you would access there into the community and into the home, as kind of like a home health benefit plus something, plus hospice, plus coordination of care, home modifications. It could go pretty broad and be, a total replacement for a lot of the nursing home placements that you might otherwise have to have. So I think those are the big areas, is like kind of seeing the way the sector is evolving, and then kind of creating, opportunities that really fit with what people want to do and how they want to age. So I think that's the big projects that we're the most supportive of and most appreciative of.
Do you find that more people are leaning towards, or really more interested in the home care setup opposed to going to a nursing home with the broader community?
Yeah, there's some research done. I think AARP did a study early on that really showed there's an overwhelming desire to stay in home as long as possible. So you see a lot of services, kind of like if you're a Medi-Cal, we call Medi-Cal in California, it's the Medicaid program. There are services you can access to get services in the home, or you can pay for it privately, but that middle income, there's not really a whole lot of options. So we've been working on we call it, it's not a very sexy name, it's long-term services and supports financing, but it would provide one of those benefits. So the benefits being, you could use it at home if you want to, if that's where you want, or if you're in a retirement community that you love, that's your home, and you can access those benefits there. But it's really meant to kind of help the middle market.
Wow. Now, I know specifically that with your role, It requires the execution of strategic plans, including, I know there's multi-million-dollar grants. You guys are also using the Sengii Tools. So which Sengii Tools is your organization using?
So yeah, we're using the online community. We had been working with a competitor, I guess, prior to this, and we transitioned over to Sengii after a brief experiment with Google Groups that did not go very well. But we found that Sengii is really, it hits the mark on, it doesn't, offer crazy expansive options that are completely useless to a lot of our members. We just wanted a tool that could basically allow our members to talk to each other, us to push out information in real time. And we really love the online tool for that because it allows that engagement with each other, which as an association is really important, especially our nonprofit community, because all of our members are nonprofit. They have that very collaborative spirit. So they're always wanting to talk to each other about, whatever they're experiencing, sharing best practices. So it's hits the perfect mark between kind of allowing that collaborative without too much that kind of get in the way of, people kind of looking at the interface and going, what do I do with this? It's very clean and slick. So that's why we're on the online forum.
Excellent. So I know sometimes, with the senior population using new technologies or receiving information, different types of software and apps can be challenging. Have you had to deal with that in terms of using the Sengii and then with the way your organization is using it? Has that been any type of issue?
Yeah, actually, the use of it's not been an issue really at all. I mean, it's intuitive enough to know that, if you're comfortable using email, like if you just hit reply to a message, it's going to populate where it needs to populate. You don't have to log in. And the thing, our members are kind of password adverse. They hate having to deal with passwords. So if they are able to just click into the forum without having to use that password, which Sengii allows you to do, it really helps with the online interactions because people don't have to remember 500 or so passwords that they use to access our services. So it's really, that's one of the key features that also drew us to it. It was really interesting.
Okay. So what was it like in your office before you started using the online community?
Well, we basically sending out one-way information. So we're basically blasting out information and hoping that people hear. Just looking at the metrics, seeing if people opened it, and really you kind of guess. But I think with Sengii, you're able to get kind of immediate responses. And a lot of our technical support is spawned by that. So if there's somebody who received something, they had a question on it, they can ask right then and there, well, how does this impact something, that's related to it? And then we can reply right there on the spot. And then that information or that piece of information that I'm sure, 20 or 50 other people have that same question, that's all there for them to see. So it's really helpful as far as providing kind of support to the members on any issue that really comes up that's timely.
What I love about that you mentioned is that there's you have the internal side of things where, you're utilizing the software, people are using it, but also supporting the members as well, which ultimately that's the big aspect of it, is make sure that the members are receiving, quality service. What has been some of the benefits, that the members have received now you've migrated to this other platform?
Yeah, well, I will just tell you the most recent benefit has been the pandemic response. We used the online community, we call it LeadingAge California Connect, to basically push out all of the information that was coming from the CDC, our Department of Public Health. All of that information was coming through the online forum. And our members, they're still commenting on it today about how vital it was to get that kind of as it's happening, and we were the first on the scene with a lot of the information. So they really appreciate it. And that's been a number one benefit, that they were able to access the changing information really rapidly in real time.
Wow. Oh, that's excellent. Now, Eric, oftentimes people take for granted the work that other organizations do. And just through our conversation so far, I mean, LeadingAge California does just so many different things. So what is something that would go undone if your organization were to close tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I think A lot of the broad kind of, I would like, I don't know how to describe it the best, but it's more of the big, hairy problems that face the industry. You know, unless you have someone convening and addressing those questions, they don't get addressed. So you're not going to have individual nursing homes kind of come up with a solution. Individual retirement communities aren't going to make it happen. But when we come together as a collective and talk about those big financing problems, those big, like how do we access care, quality care, those would not happen. So there would be kind of whatever the policy of the state would be basically left kind of unchecked. And there's not that kind of consensus building and collaborative policy development that, you know, you'd like to have to make sure that whatever outcome the government is trying to pursue, that it actually fits and works with, you know, whoever is affected, in this case, the senior population. So that's really our role. If we weren't around, it could be a little bit more haphazard and a little less of a good fit, I think, as to whatever the state would be developing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the word that comes to mind to me really is you're an advocate. Your organization is an advocate for the senior population.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we have a team of policy experts that talk on all kinds of issues to all kinds of people. So we're always out there pushing the issues and making sure we're being heard. So we appreciate talking to folks like you about kind of what we're working on.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So I know that, you know, hindsight is always 2020. So over the span of your career so far, what do you wish you had known when you first started?
Oh, wow. Well, there's a lot. I think talking more directly to policymakers in a meaningful way, I think is most important, because we do have, you know, stakeholder meetings, we have a lot of engagement, but getting stories from the way the services are impacted to seniors to policymakers, that's really critical. So I kind of always known that, and kind of coming through my couple decades here at LeadingAge California, that that's important. But as we kind of get, I mean, we're a big state. California, what, fifth, seventh largest in the world economy size. There's a lot of voices competing for attention in the capital, and the more that we can get the focus stories from kind of how these policies are impacting, the more likely we are to get attention in the people talking on, you know, climate change or you know healthcare quality, and we're trying to get, you know, in that same vein, and trying to get the attention of the same people making those policy decisions as our ones that are affecting our sector.
Wow. Why do you think it's so important to have the stories reach the policymakers?
Well, I think, first of all, policymakers respond better to personal stories, especially if their constituents are telling them this is impacting me in this way, and I want you to pay attention to that. It just makes for the conversation to be that much more genuine. So, you know, we're LeadingAge California. We're advocates. We get paid to you know, talk to policymakers. But when you have the stories behind that, it really helps, and it really makes, you know, whatever point you're trying to make with whichever policymaker you're talking to, it just kind of brings it home, and it really helps with, you know, kind of making the situation more real. And you know, and that's what legislators and people in general, they respond to. Like, if this is happening, I am definitely going to react, because I do not want this bad thing to happen to you. Because, you know, so I think that's the real importance, is to make sure that those stories are developed and sent to legislators in a, you know, in almost all conversations you have, whatever issue it is, you need to have the stories.
Yeah, that's good. It's like the idea of adding the truth and the human element to it. I heard someone say one time, it said that you can walk past a general problem, but you can't walk past a person. So I love the fact that you bring the stories of the people it's like, okay, now the policymakers have to say, okay, wait a second, these are real people. These are obviously real people. These are people who are, a face essentially, or story with the situation. So I think that's excellent. You guys are doing that.
Yeah.
So if people want to be involved in what you all are doing, where do they go? What can they do?
Yeah, so you mentioned our Age on Rage On campaign. So we have a whole website set up. It's ageonrageon.com. And if you wanted to sign, you can take the pledge. It's not pledging any money. It's just pledging to be an active advocate. So you could sign up there and we will give you email updates on what we're up to. We'll give you opportunities to respond to calls to action. We just did one on the state budget cuts to some senior programs that were proposed here in California. So we'll make sure we use your email sparingly, but also we'll use it on very important issues that you might care about and want to get engaged in.
Excellent. Eric Dowdy of LeadingAge California, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.